My stepdaughter threw hot coffee at me because I would not hand over my credit card. "Give me your card or get out," Kiara screamed. I was still trying to understand how we had gotten there when my husband looked at the coffee soaking through my blouse, glanced at the red mark spreading along my neck, and pointed toward the stairs. "Pack a bag, Lauren." So I did. 2 days later, Marvin and Kiara came home from the lake and found the locks changed. My lawyer was sitting on the front porch with a yellow legal pad across her knees and a folder thick enough to make Marvin stop halfway up the walk. But that Friday morning, standing in my own kitchen with my skin burning and my husband siding with his daughter, I had no idea how far the whole thing went. My name is Lauren Banks. I was 57 then, living in Overland Park, Kansas, in a 4-bedroom house I had bought 7 years before I married Marvin. I worked payroll for a commercial construction company in Kansas City. That means I spent my days making sure everyone else's numbers came out right. Apparently, I had stopped checking my own household closely enough. That morning started so normally, it bothered me later. I had an early dental cleaning near 119th Street and stopped for bagels on the way home. I bought Marvin his favorite cinnamon crunch bagel because marriage can be falling apart and still remember cream cheese. Kiara had stayed over the night before. Supposedly, she had worked late at her boutique and did not want to drive back to her apartment. Her store was called Juniper and Maple. Women's clothes, candles, handbags, scarves, little gold necklaces displayed on velvet stands. It had been open less than a year. When I came into the kitchen, Kiara was sitting at the island in leggings and an oversized college sweatshirt, tapping her nails against her phone. "Can I ask you something?" "What?" "I need to use your Visa." I set the bag down. "For what?" "A vendor payment." "Oh, just temporary." "How much?" $7,800. I thought I had heard her wrong. "Dollars?" "Obviously dollars, Lauren. My shipment is being held. If I don't pay by noon, they move me behind 3 other stores." I took a sip of coffee. "No." Her face changed immediately. "You did not even think about it." "I have been thinking about it for 6 months." I had already put $12,000 into Juniper and Maple when she opened. Inventory, deposits, fixtures, a point-of-sale system she swore she needed, even though I barely understood why a cash register needed a monthly subscription. She promised to repay me within a year. She had not. Kiara leaned back. "You have a $25,000 limit. That is not the point. You're not even using it. That does not make it yours." Marvin walked in wearing khaki shorts and an old blue polo. "What's going on?" Kiara answered first. "She won't help me cover the vendor." Marvin opened the bag I had brought him. "Just let her use it, Lauren." I stared at him. "Excuse me?" "It's one charge. She'll pay you back." "She still owes me from the last time." Kiara rolled her eyes. Marvin sighed. "Family helps family." That sentence had done a lot of work in our house over the years. College books, tires, an apartment deposit, a transmission, dental work, inventory, branding, a website redesign that somehow cost more than my first car. I had never minded helping when it felt like help. Lately, it felt like a standing order. "No," I said. "I am not putting another $8,000 on my card." Kiara stood. "You are unbelievable." "My money is not an emergency fund for your business." Her jaw tightened. "Give me your card or get out." For half a second, I almost laughed. It was such an absurd sentence to hear in my own kitchen that I thought she had forgotten where she was. Then she grabbed my coffee. I saw her hand move, but I did not think she would actually do it. She threw it. The coffee hit my blouse and splashed across my neck and shoulder. It was not boiling, but it was hot enough that I gasped and stumbled back into the counter. Nobody spoke. I looked at Marvin. I expected him to ask if I was okay, to tell Kiara she had crossed a line, to do anything that made sense. Instead, he said, "Look what you two turned this into." I blinked. "You two?" Marvin rubbed his forehead. "Everybody needs to cool off." "My skin is burning, Marvin." He glanced at my shoulder, then away. "Go upstairs, pack a bag, stay somewhere for the weekend." I stared at him. Then he said it again. Pack a bag, Lauren. Something in me went quiet. I went upstairs and packed medication, work clothes, pajamas, toiletries, my laptop, bank statements, and the small fireproof document box from the back of my closet. When I came downstairs, Marvin noticed the box. "What are you taking that for?" "Because it is mine." For the first time all morning, his expression changed, just for a second. But I saw it. I drove to a hotel near I-435 because I did not want to show up crying at a friend's house. I checked in, wrapped ice in a towel, and pressed it against my shoulder. Around 6, Marvin finally texted, "Are you ready to stop being ridiculous? I wish I could tell you I handled that well." I did not. After everything I have paid for, both of you can go to hell. The second I sent it, I regretted it. Marvin did not answer. Later, I learned he had taken a screenshot. I opened the fireproof box. The deed was exactly where I knew it would be. My name. Only my name. I had bought that house years before I met Marvin. For 30 seconds, I pictured changing every lock before breakfast. Then I called Dana Coleman, a family law attorney I knew through work. She listened without interrupting. Then she said, "First, do not change the locks tonight. You take all the fun out of everything. That is why people pay me." I almost smiled. Then her voice changed. "Lauren, why did Kiara need your physical credit card today for a vendor payment?" "She said the supplier was holding a shipment." "Check your credit." I opened the monitoring app on my phone. There was a hard inquiry I did not recognize. 9 days earlier. Applicant, Juniper and Maple LLC. Requested credit line, $65,000. Attached guarantor, Lauren Banks. I stared at those words until the letters stopped looking real. Juniper and Maple. Kiara's Boutique. My name. I called Dana back immediately. She did not say I told you so. Dana was too professional for that. She just said, "Call the lender first thing in the morning. Do not accuse anyone yet. Find out exactly what was submitted." That was hard advice to follow. I barely slept. Saturday morning, I sat at the hotel desk with terrible coffee, my laptop open, and a legal pad beside me. The fraud department at Plains Capital Funding transferred me twice before a woman named Celeste pulled up the application. "Ms. Banks, you are listed as a proposed personal guarantor." I never agreed to guarantee anything. There was a pause. "All right, I am documenting that." "How much?" $65,000. I closed my eyes. "Has it funded?" "No. Additional identity verification was requested." That explained why Kiara had been desperate Friday morning. The loan had stalled. Her supplier payment was due. My credit card had become Plan B. Celeste asked me to verify some information. The more she asked, the colder I got. The application included my income, my employer, my home address, old mortgage information, a copy of my driver's license, and enough of my social security number that there was no chance Kiara guessed her way through it. I knew where those documents came from. Marvin and I filed taxes jointly. We kept several years of returns in a password-protected finance folder on the home computer. Marvin knew the password because he downloaded insurance forms and tax documents whenever he needed them. That folder also had a scanned copy of my driver's license from an insurance renewal and old mortgage statements. I had never thought twice about it. Why would I? He was my husband. That realization hurt in a way the coffee had not. Kiara might have used the information, but Marvin had access to everything she needed. I called him. He answered on the 4th ring. "What?" "No hello." "Did you give Kiara my financial information?" Silence. "Lauren, I am not doing this all weekend." "That was not my question." "She is trying to save her business." "So you did." "I am not being interrogated." I hung up before I said something Dana would hate. Then I called Dana. She gave me a short list. Freeze my credit, change financial passwords, alert the bank, protect my direct deposit, keep records, screenshot everything. I did all of it. It took less than 2 hours. The emotional part took longer. When I checked our joint household account, I found 3 transfers I did not recognize. $5,000 in May, $6,400 in June, $7,000 in August, total $18,400. Recipient, Juniper and maple. Marvin had labeled them household transfers. I actually laughed when I saw that. Not because it was funny, because if I did not laugh, I was going to throw my laptop through the hotel window. I called him again. This time, he answered quickly. Did you transfer $18,400 to Kiara's store? Yes. Just like that. You did not think I needed to know? It was our money. Then why did you hide where it went? I did not hide anything. You labeled it household. Because I knew you would make a federal case out of it. I stood and started pacing. Did you give her my social security number? Marvin sighed. Stop acting like I handed your identity to some stranger. She submitted a loan application with my name on it. She needed financing. I never agreed. None of this would have happened if you had just helped us cover the vendor. I stopped walking. Us. That word sat there between us. Not her. Not Kiara. Us. What exactly are you getting out of this? He did not answer. Then he said, I am done with this conversation. The call ended. I sat on the edge of the hotel bed and looked around the room. Beige carpet, plastic ice bucket, a framed picture of downtown Kansas City that looked like it had been ordered in bulk. I suddenly felt very tired. If you're listening from somewhere right now, write your city, state, or country in the comments, or tell me what time it is where you are. I always wonder where people are when they hear the moment a woman realizes the people calling her selfish have already been spending her future. I drove to Costco because I needed toothpaste, coffee, and something normal to do. I got as far as the parking lot. Then I just sat there. 16 years earlier, when Kiara was 15, I taught her to drive in an empty shopping center lot. She was terrified of left turns. Every time she came to one, she hit the brake too hard and looked at me like the car might explode. Slow down, I kept saying. You're okay. Try again. Eventually, she got it. For years, that was how I thought of us. Not mother and daughter exactly, but close enough that I believed time would fill the missing spaces. Sitting in that car, I wondered when helping turned into expectation, and when expectation turned into ownership. I opened my banking app for about 30 seconds. I considered paying the $7,800 anyway, make the supplier problem disappear, go home, talk it out, save the marriage before lawyers got comfortable. The thought embarrassed me. But it was real. Peace had become a habit. Habits do not vanish just because someone finally crosses a line. I closed the app without paying anything. My phone rang. Plains Capital. Celeste again. Ms. Banks, we found something else in the application. My stomach tightened. What? There is no electronic signature from you. For half a second, I felt relief. Then she continued. But there is a certification from your husband. I sat straighter. What kind of certification? He confirmed that he had personally discussed the loan with you and that you agreed to serve as guarantor. For a second, I could not speak. Marvin had not misunderstood me. He had not assumed I would say yes. He had told a lender that I already had. I looked through the windshield at families pushing giant carts toward the entrance. Can you send me a copy? When the document arrived 20 minutes later, I read Marvin's name at the bottom twice. My husband had decided that if my answer was inconvenient enough, he could replace it. I met Dana that afternoon at a small cafe near 95th Street. She had already printed the certification Marvin signed. I slid into the booth and pushed my coffee aside. I keep reading it like I am missing something. You're not. He told them he discussed the loan with me. Yes. And that I agreed. Yes. I leaned back. He knew I would say no. Dana folded the paper once. Apparently that was the problem. That sentence stayed with me because it was exactly right. Marvin had not forgotten to ask. He had skipped the part where my answer mattered. Dana told me the practical steps were underway. The lender flagged the application. My credit was frozen. My accounts were protected. She had started drafting separation documents. Then she looked at me over her glasses. What do you want? I gave the answer I thought I should give. I want to protect myself. That is the lawyer answer. I looked down at my hands. I want them to understand they cannot do this to me. Dana nodded. Oh, that is the honest one. A few hours later, I went back to the house. Marvin and Kiara were gone. His truck was not in the driveway. The kitchen smelled faintly like the cinnamon bagel I had brought home the day before, which felt strangely insulting. I went upstairs and packed a few more clothes. Then I came back down for tax papers Dana needed. That was when I saw the mug. It sat beside the sink, white ceramic, blue lettering, bonus mom, real love. Kiara had given it to me for Mother's Day 7 years earlier. I remembered the morning she showed up with grocery store flowers and acted embarrassed about the whole thing. "Don't make this weird," she had said, handing me the mug. I laughed. I wasn't planning to. I picked it up now. For one stupid second, I wanted that mug to prove something. That we had been real once. That I had not imagined 16 years of birthdays, college move-ins, Christmas mornings, bad boyfriends, car repairs, and late-night phone calls. Then I set it back beside the sink. Whatever had been good between us did not make Friday acceptable. That evening, Marvin finally texted, "Kiara and I are heading to the lake. I moved what I need. Keep your house. I'll stay somewhere else when we get back." I forwarded it to Dana. She called immediately. "Do not assume anything. Clarify." So I typed carefully. "To be clear, are you telling me you have moved out and will arrange another time to collect the rest of your property?" His answer came less than a minute later. "Yes? Fine. Do whatever you want. Dana told me to save everything." She sent Marvin formal notice about collecting his belongings and keeping communication in writing. Only then did I call a locksmith. Sunday morning, a man named Ryan showed up in a white van and rekeyed the front and back doors. He worked for maybe 40 minutes. When he handed me the new keys, I felt something I had not expected. Not victory, relief. For a few hours, I believed the worst part might be over. That was naive. Around noon, Marvin's sister Charlene called. We had never been close, but we had always been polite. Her voice sounded careful. "Lauren, I don't want to get in the middle of anything." "That usually means someone is already in the middle. What did Marvin tell you?" She hesitated. "He said you kind of lost it." I closed my eyes. "Lost it how?" "That you screamed at Kiara, told them both to go to hell, and locked him out after he tried to calm things down." I almost laughed. Instead, I said, "Did he mention she threw coffee at me?" Silence. "No." "Did he mention the business loan?" Another silence. "What business loan?" There it was. Marvin was not defending himself. He was rewriting the story. Then Charlene said, "He showed me your text. I knew exactly which one. After everything I have paid for, both of you can go to hell. Nothing before, nothing after. Just the part where I looked angry and unstable." When I told Dana, she sighed. "That text was not ideal." "I know. Do not send another one." "I know." There was something almost comforting about being corrected for a mistake that was actually mine. At least that part I could own. Sunday afternoon, Dana came by with separation papers and a draft schedule for Marvin to collect his remaining things. We were sitting at my dining room table when I heard a truck pull into the driveway. I looked through the window. Marvin. Kiara climbed out of the passenger side. "They're early," I said. Dana stood. "They are not scheduled for today." Marvin walked to the front door and shoved his old key into the lock. It did not turn. He tried again, harder. A second later, he started pounding. "Lauren." Kiara joined him. "What did you do?" Dana picked up her folder and walked outside. I stayed behind the storm door. Marvin looked at her. "What the hell is this?" Dana smiled politely. "Good afternoon, Marvin." "Why can't I get into my house?" "You told Lauren in writing that you moved out. Your property pickup is scheduled for Tuesday." "That is not what I meant." Dana opened the folder. "You were asked to clarify. You said yes." Marvin looked past her at me. "This is insane." Dana handed him an envelope. Inside was the separation notice, the property access schedule, and written notice that I disputed the use of my financial information in connection with Juniper and Maple. Kiara's face went pale when Dana mentioned the lender. Marvin said, "This is a family issue." Dana nodded. "Then it should be very easy to explain." Kiara snapped, "Lauren is trying to ruin my business." I opened the storm door. "No. I am stopping you from using my credit." Dana added, "Lauren's accounts and credit are no longer available to either of you." Kiara turned toward Marvin so fast I barely registered it. "You said she would never find out." Everything stopped. Marvin stared at her. Kiara stared back. Dana did not say a word. Neither did I. For the first time, I understood that I had been asking the wrong question. I already knew Marvin was involved. What I did not know was how much of the plan belonged to him. By Monday morning, Marvin had turned our separation into a family newsletter. I learned that because 3 people contacted me before lunch. His brother wanted to hear both sides. One cousin sent a vague message about forgiveness. A woman I barely knew from Marvin's golf group wrote, "I'm praying for you both." That last one irritated me more than it should have. I did not want prayers from people who had apparently already heard a version of my marriage I had not been invited to explain. Marvin's story was simple. I had always resented Kiara. I used money to control people. Kiara asked for help with her business. I overreacted. When Marvin tried to calm things down, I threw him out. Kiara helped by posting on Facebook. Funny how people show their true colors when money gets involved. My neighbor Patrice sent me a screenshot. I typed a response, then I deleted it. That was probably the first useful thing I learned from the ugly text I had sent Marvin at the hotel. Anger might be justified, but screenshots do not come with context. At work, I was not doing much better. I had been in payroll for more than 20 years. Numbers were the one place in my life where I trusted myself completely. That Tuesday, I almost sent a warehouse supervisor's overtime to the wrong employee record. I caught it before the payroll batch processed, but my hands were shaking afterward. My boss, Frederick Davis, stood in my doorway around 2:30. Frederick was 64, from Independence, Missouri, and most days had the emotional range of a parking meter. "You going home early?" he asked. "I'm fine." I didn't ask. I looked at him. He nodded toward the parking lot. "Go. We'll survive." That little bit of kindness nearly undid me. I packed my purse and left before he could see it. When I got home, there was a voicemail from Rosa. Marvin's mother was 83 and still lived by herself in Prairie Village, sharp as glass, drove only during daylight, and had opinions about everything from property taxes to how much garlic belonged in spaghetti sauce. I called her back. "Lauren," she said, "who told you not to come to my birthday dinner?" I sat on the edge of the sofa. Marvin said it would be easier for everybody. "It's my birthday." "I know. I'm 83. I am allowed to make things difficult." I laughed, despite myself. Then her voice softened. "Tell me what happened." I gave her the short version. Not every bank transfer, not the whole file. Just enough. When I told her about the coffee, she went quiet. Then she said, "Marvin's father used to spend my paycheck before he bothered asking me." I had never heard her talk about her late husband that way. "For 30 years, she continued, I called that keeping the peace." She paused. It wasn't. I did not know what to say. Rosa saved me from trying. "I won't tell you what to do, honey. I am just not going to tell you to do what I was too afraid to do." That was all. No big speech. But after we hung up, I sat there for a while. 2 days later, Plains Capital called. The lender had completed its review. They accepted that I had never authorized the guarantee, and the business credit line would not proceed using my credit. I should have felt triumphant. Mostly, I felt tired. Then Marvin called. His voice was different. Quiet. Careful. "Can we talk like adults?" "That depends." I know this got out of hand. I waited. He said Kiara had been under enormous pressure. Suppliers were tightening terms. Sales had not matched projections. He had been trying to keep her from losing everything. Then came the sentence that ended any remaining doubt I had about us. I knew you would say no, so I thought we would handle it first and explain later once everything was okay. I actually pulled the phone away from my ear and looked at it. Then I said, "You did not forget to ask me, Marvin." He was silent. You decided my answer did not count. Lauren. I hung up. That afternoon, Dana asked me to gather proof of the $12,000 I had put into Juniper and Maple when Kiara opened. Months earlier, I helped Kiara set up a shared drive folder for invoices, receipts, inventory lists, and bookkeeping. I had not used it in weeks. I logged in and found my original transfer receipt. Then I noticed a folder I did not remember. Funding. I clicked it. Inside were lender notes, cash flow projections, and a spreadsheet called laurenoptions.xlx. For 1 second, I hoped it was harmless. It was not. The list was short. Credit card. Home equity, savings, Rosa pressure, dad convince her, then one line made my stomach tighten. If she leaves, house issue, ask attorney. I sat perfectly still. The coffee incident had not created the plan. It exposed it. They had been discussing my money and my house before I knew there was anything to discuss. I printed the spreadsheet and sent a copy to Dana. Friday evening was Rosa's birthday dinner at a family-owned Italian restaurant in Leawood. I drove there with the folder on the passenger seat. Then I sat in the car for almost 10 minutes without getting out. I asked myself a question I did not like. Was I going in because Rosa wanted me there? Or because some part of me wanted Marvin and Kiara embarrassed in front of everyone? I did not want to become a person who needed an audience for pain. My phone buzzed. Dana. You do not owe anyone a performance. If they ask, tell the truth. That's enough. I read it twice. Then I put the folder in my purse and went inside. Marvin caught me near the private dining room before I reached Rosa. He lowered his voice. Please don't embarrass Kiara tonight. I looked at him. I was not planning to discuss Kiara. His shoulders relaxed. Then I added, unless you do. For the first 20 minutes, nobody mentioned my marriage. I almost believed we might get through dinner that way. Rosa had reserved a private room at a little Italian restaurant she had loved for years. There were about 20 of us around 2 long tables. Marvin's brothers and sisters, nieces, nephews, a couple of old family friends, Kiara, Marvin, and me. Rosa sat at the head of the table wearing a blue cardigan and pearl earrings her sister had given her sometime in the 70s. When she saw me, she squeezed my hand. You came. You ordered me to. At my age, that is called an invitation. I smiled. Marvin stayed mostly at the other end of the room. Kiara would not look at me. I kept the folder in my purse. That mattered to me. I had not come in waving documents. I ate chicken piccata, talked to Marvin's niece about her new grandson, and helped Rosa unwrap a gardening book. Then Marvin's older brother Samuel asked the question everyone had been avoiding. So what is going on with you two? Marvin gave a tired little smile, the kind designed to make him look reasonable. Lauren and Kiara had a disagreement over money. Lauren overreacted. We are sorting it out. My stomach tightened. Kiara added, I just asked for help with my business. I looked down at my plate. Rosa set her fork down. That is not what you told me happened. Marvin's smile disappeared. Mom, please. No. You have been speaking for Lauren all week. Let her speak once. The room went quiet. Every face turned toward me. For half a second, I wanted to say it was private and leave. Then I remembered Dana's text. If they ask, tell the truth. I put my napkin beside my plate. Kiara asked for my personal credit card to make a $7,800 vendor payment. I said no. Kiara crossed her arms. I continued. She told me to give her the card or get out. Then she threw my coffee at me. Samuel looked at Kiara. You did what? It was not like that. It hit my neck and shoulder, I said. Marvin told me to pack a bag and leave. Marvin jumped in. I was trying to separate them. I looked at him. You told me to leave my own house because everyone was upset. Then I nodded once. After I left, I discovered my financial information had been submitted with a $65,000 business loan I never agreed to guarantee. Nobody moved. Someone at the far end whispered, "Oh my God." Marvin leaned forward. That was a misunderstanding. That was when I opened my purse. I took out one document. This is from the lender confirming I never authorized the guarantee. Then another. And this is Marvin's certification stating that he had personally confirmed I agreed. Marvin's face went red. "You brought legal paperwork to my mother's birthday?" Before I could answer, Rosa did. "Apparently you brought fraud to my birthday. I think her folder is the smaller problem." Someone coughed to hide a laugh. Samuel did not bother hiding his. Kiara's eyes filled. "You want my store to fail?" That surprised me. Not the accusation, the hurt behind it. "No." She stared at me. "I hope your store succeeds." "Then why are you doing this?" "Because I am not financing it anymore." She shook her head. "You know what happens if I lose my vendors?" "Yes." "You know I could lose everything." "Yes." "And you're okay with that?" "No." That seemed to confuse her. "I can care what happens to you without paying to prevent it." Marvin pushed his chair back. "This is ridiculous. Kiara made mistakes. I made mistakes. Lauren turned it into some conspiracy." I had hoped he would not say that. Because the spreadsheet was still in my purse, I took it out. "Then explain this." I slid laurenoptions.xlsx across the table. Marvin looked at the heading. His expression changed before he read another word. Kiara saw it too. "That was your list," she said. Marvin snapped, "Don't start. You made most of it. You were the one begging for money because you kept telling me we would get it." Marvin lowered his voice. "Kiara, no. You told me she would eventually forgive us." Nobody moved. Marvin said, "Stop talking." But Kiara was crying now. "You said she always does." That one hurt because it was true. I had always been the person who cooled down first. I complained, drew a line, then softened it because Thanksgiving was coming or somebody had a birthday, or Marvin said Kiara was going through a hard time. Apparently they had noticed. Marvin turned toward me. "You're enjoying this, aren't you?" "No." And I meant it. I was not enjoying watching Kiara cry. I remembered teaching her to drive. Her community college graduation. The Mother's Day mug. Those memories had not disappeared, but they were not a credit line either. Kiara wiped her face. "You're acting like Dad did this for himself." Marvin looked sharply at her. She laughed once, bitter and wet. "Tell her." I frowned. "Tell me what?" Kiara looked at him, then at me. "The $3,000 a month." "What 3,000?" Marvin said. "That is not relevant." Kiara shook her head. "He kept pushing me to open a second location. He said once he retired, he would handle vendor relationships and expansion." "I was trying to help you." "For $3,000 a month." The table went silent again. Kiara stared at her father. "You told me you were doing it because you believed in me." Marvin looked trapped. For the first time, Kiara seemed to understand that the man who encouraged her to treat my money like family property had also been making plans for hers. Rosa leaned back. She looked at Marvin for a long moment. Then she said quietly, "You confused kindness with permission." Nobody added anything. They did not need to. I put the papers back in my purse. As I stood to leave, Kiara followed me toward the doorway. "Lauren." I stopped. Her mascara had smudged under one eye. I wanted to hug her. That was the hardest part. Instead, I said, "If you ever want a relationship with me again, it cannot come with an invoice." She looked down. I kissed Rosa goodbye and walked outside. Marvin followed me into the parking lot. "Are you really divorcing me?" "Yes." "Over a credit card?" I looked at him. "No, Marvin. Over what you thought you were entitled to do with it." His face tightened. Then he said something that finally sounded less angry than afraid. "Do you have any idea what this is going to cost you?" I did. Standing under those parking lot lights with my keys in my hand, I realized revenge was the easy fantasy. The real thing, leaving, dividing a life, paying lawyers, accepting what I might lose, was going to hurt. I unlocked my car anyway. Marvin was right about one thing. Leaving cost me. I wish I could tell you the next morning Dana filed a few papers, Marvin disappeared into an apartment, and I kept every dollar because the house had been mine first. That is not how it happened. Marvin hired his own attorney. Within weeks, we were arguing through lawyers about savings, furniture, vehicles, household expenses, and money spent during 8 years of marriage. The house became the part I hated most. I had bought it before Marvin. My name was on the deed. But marriage had created financial questions around improvements and contributions that were not solved by me pointing at a document and saying mine. One afternoon, I sat in Dana's office looking at a proposed settlement. This feels like I am paying him for what he did. Dana took off her glasses. No. You are settling a marriage. He lied about my finances. I know. He moved money without telling me. I know. And I still have to compromise. Yes. I hated that answer. Dana leaned back. Fair and satisfying are not always the same thing, Lauren. So we went to mediation. It took most of a day. Marvin sat in another room with his lawyer. Offers moved back and forth. Numbers changed. Furniture I had not thought about in years suddenly became emotional because apparently divorce can make two grown people care deeply about who owns a patio heater. At one point, Marvin wanted it. I told Dana, "Give him the stupid heater." She laughed. "That may be the healthiest decision you've made all day." Eventually, we reached an agreement. I kept the house. Marvin received his share of agreed marital savings and property. Once everything was calculated, resolving the disputed issues while keeping the house cost me about $28,000 more than I wanted to give up. Writing that check hurt. For about 3 days, I hated that check more than I hated Marvin. Then something shifted. I had not paid him to win. I had paid to finish. Marvin rented a 2-bedroom apartment in Olathe. Nothing terrible happened to him. He was not homeless. He did not lose every friend. Lightning did not strike his truck. He simply had to live on his own income and make his own decisions without using my accounts as part of the plan. His relationship with Kiara deteriorated after Rosa's birthday. Apparently, Kiara could not get past learning that her father had pushed expansion, partly because he expected a monthly consulting check. For once, that was not my problem to solve. Juniper and Maple came close to closing. Kiara cut expenses. She abandoned the second location, dropped the expensive marketing package, traded her newer SUV for an older Honda CR-V, and started working the register herself 6 days a week. The store survived. Barely. I gave her nothing. That sentence might sound cold, but it did not feel cold. Every time I heard through Rosa that business was slow, the old impulse rose in me. Help. Fix it. Make the pain stop. Then I reminded myself that a 31-year-old woman running a business was allowed to experience the results of running that business. Marvin emailed me about 2 months after mediation. It was long. He apologized for the loan application, then explained why he had done it, then apologized for explaining. He said losing the marriage made him realize how much he had taken for granted. I read it once. Then I closed my laptop. I did not answer. A year earlier, I would have needed him to understand exactly how he had hurt me. By then, I did not. Kiara was different. About 4 months after Rosa's birthday, I found an envelope in my mailbox. My name was written across the front in Kiara's handwriting. Inside were 3 pages. She apologized for throwing the coffee, for demanding my card, and for participating in the loan application. Most important, she did not blame everything on Marvin. She wrote, "I got used to you fixing things, and somewhere along the way, I started believing you were supposed to." That was the first thing she said that made me believe she understood. I waited almost 3 weeks before answering. Eventually, we met for coffee. Kiara looked tired, older somehow. She ordered first, then paid for both coffees. I noticed. I did not mention it. We talked about Rosa, the store, and nothing important for about 15 minutes. Finally, Kiara asked, "Do you think you will ever trust me again?" I stirred my coffee. "I don't know." She nodded. I added, But this is the first conversation we have had in a long time where you are not asking me for something. She looked down at her cup. Yeah. We did not hug when we left. I was okay with that. Some relationships should not be repaired in one afternoon. Rosa and I stayed close. One Saturday in April, I drove her to a garden center because she wanted tomato plants. She spent 20 minutes rejecting perfectly healthy ones for reasons known only to her. Finally, she held up a plant and said, "At least these only want water." I laughed so loudly, a man in the next aisle turned around. 6 months after that Friday morning, I was sitting on my back patio with coffee and a stack of bills. The house was quiet. At first, quiet had frightened me. After 8 years with Marvin, I would hear the refrigerator turn on and suddenly notice there was nobody else in the room. Eventually, quiet stopped feeling empty. It started feeling peaceful. For years, I thought being a good wife and stepmother meant making life easier for the people I loved. There was nothing wrong with helping them. My mistake was letting help become expectation, and expectation become entitlement. Changing the locks was not the real revenge. Neither was exposing Marvin at Rosa's birthday. The part that changed my life was much simpler. I stopped paying the price for choices other adults made. I could care about Kiara and still tell her no. I could remember good years with Marvin and still know the marriage was over. And yes, I could lose $28,000 and still know I had gained something I had not realized I was giving away. The right to decide what happened next in my own life. If someone has ever mistaken your kindness for permission, tell me how you finally drew the line. And if this story stayed with you, like and subscribe, because sometimes the no that upsets people most is the one you should have said years ago.